silently now until we have the questions after, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, because remember, it's not a debate, it's just an invitation, yeah? I don't really have any skin in the game. I'm just attempting, in a way, I've got this experience through recovery. In recovery, I got sober 31 years ago, yeah? And I was struck sober. I didn't go to AA to get sober. I was sober and I found AA, or AA found me so I could stay sober, basically. Yeah, so the sobriety got downloaded. And then it was so beautiful because the next day circumstances brought me to a meeting, and the meetings and the way of life was going to allow that to extend in time, or it would have probably dissipated by Wednesday, yeah? Which happens to a lot of people with peak experiences. It doesn't, you have a belief that if you just had a strong enough epiphany or a big enough awakening or whatever, that it would completely stabilize, and you have a rude awakening because it doesn't. Yeah, it's because time sets in and the whole system and the dreaming sets in again and again overrides quite a lot of what you thought was an experience, yeah? But it's never overridden you, yeah? It's never obscured what you are. It's never blemished anything about what you are. So what happened with that, I was sitting in this trailer park in a caravan, we call it here, and I was trying to drink until I could get loaded on drugs. And I was in a situation that many people in addiction find themselves. I had no money. Yeah, so I had to talk other people to do what I wanted, and my success ratio was going down precipitously. I wasn't being that convincing, so I was very fucking pissed that I wasn't high, yeah? So, and I had just been in a 2-year program, because when I was out there seemingly managing my own life, it always led to me having to be managed by other people. Like the jails, court system, the jails, hospitals, detoxes, rehabs, yeah. So I was in the longest period of time, 2 years in a program. I graduated with flying colors, and then I went back out in about a week, yeah. And I went on this 10-month run, and it ended up in this trailer park about 2 hours north of where I live, yes. And I came to, and I was sitting across from a guy drinking a bottle of vodka, and this guy had a big face, big head, and bulbous nose and varicose veins. And I said to myself, this guy's a fucking bum, But lo and behold, he was looking at me like a bum, or so I read it. And at that moment, something occurred, yeah, that no human power could produce, because my mother wanted me to stop, yeah. I wanted to stop. The state wanted me to stop. Nothing seemed to be able to produce that stop. But something stopped my head, stopped that narration. And it was almost like a portal opened and something downloaded. And that download went to what we call in AA the innermost. Yeah, it didn't, usually most shit gets captured by the thought system, but this went through, got through the defense, and went somewhere other than the thoughts. I don't know where, but it was sort of like a lightning bolt, like a CNN news flash, just a headline. And the headline was, I'm fucked, really. And I'd been fucked for quite a while, but I was in an extreme case of denial about it. And that whole denial broke, and I knew, I believed with certainty, yes? I was thoroughly convinced. And what happened was, new ideas started coming in, and I called Delancey Street, this program that I'd been in for 2 years, and asked if I could come back. And they were getting my newsletter the last few months, and they said, no, you can't come back. You can come back in a month and maybe have another interview. That doesn't mean we'll let you back in. And this set off a train of circumstance that night, from all these weird things happening, I was brought to my first recovery meeting, and I've been going ever since. Because first I got struck sober, and then life or grace provided me the way of life to extend that, yes? To express it and extend it. It's unbelievable, yeah? So in that demonstration, something was revealed to me. Quite a lot was revealed to me. It never was concretely put into anything, but it was there, that I had this sense. And then after about 8 years in recovery, I had gone back into spirituality at like the first year, because that was the best time of my life, was when I was meditating and doing stuff. And it was between 20 and 24 when I was on probation. I got introduced to an Indian guru, and I was meditating every day and everything, and then I just lost it. And then, so I went back to it. I started practicing, and I really liked, and I started reading Hinayana Buddhism, from Thailand and Burma, and I liked it, the concepts. I never had seen it, it was awesome. So I went to Thailand a lot, went to all these temples, started to do retreats, then got introduced to Vipassana. All this was happening. And then about 9 years in, I was reading this statement in recovery, because I led workshops in recovery to try to help people stay sober a day at a time. And one of the main things we do is do an inventory process on certain aspects called resentments, fears, and harming other people, pursuit of what you want. Yeah. So I was leading this thing, and I did it for 16 years, really. Before that and after that, every Monday night, if I was in America. And there was this chapter on how it works, and it was a statement, and I saw it in a completely new light. And the statement was, being convinced, which means to believe with certainty, that self manifests, and I'm not talking about self as Ramana would talk about it, meaning everything. I'm talking more about like the Chinese Zen, and then recovery talks about self, which is this sense of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity that is derived by claiming activities. It has really nothing to do with it, like being the thinker, the feeler, the doer, and all this, yes? So that sense, okay? So it says, being convinced that self manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. So Bill W., the co-founder of AA, knowing it or not knowing it, just separated the two. He said self and us. So something is manifesting through us and defeating us by its manifestations. But it's not us. Or it would have said us manifesting in its various ways had defeated us. It doesn't. It says self. Self and us means plural. Self seems to be singular, yes? It didn't say selves. It said self, manifested in various ways, defeated us. It says, and then if you're convinced of that, we're going to look at some of its counter manifestations. And so when I saw that word self that night, I saw it as a foreign installment, or a parasitical movement, or whatever you want to call it, demonic possession, whatever. But I saw it as other. And by seeing it as other, the next thing that downloaded was I can be free from it. As soon as I saw it was other, I could be free from it, because the root of the problem is being identified as it. So all the time I was hoping for freedom, I was trying to be free as that. Yes? Where the freedom is from that. And there's no that, it's just freedom from an idea, basically. Yes? So it was so cool, because I saw it as foreign, and the next thing I said, I realized, hey, I can be free from it. And then it told me in a flash, like a 20-year pictorial, that I had been trying to be free as it since I was 6 years old. It explained everything like in a nanosecond, and that never changed. So I saw that which was taken to be me as other, and then the possibility of freedom, not co-opted by it, by wanting that to be free, but free from it, became available. And that to me is the basis of traveling lighter. You see what you're not. You see what you're not, and in seeing what you're not, you will find out what you are. And it's just a shift of interest and a redistribution, and it goes past or bypasses some of the common pitfalls that we hope to share about here, because you can't be interested in losing interest. That would be being interested. The system itself is the obscuring agent. So there's a statement in recovery. It says you got to quit playing God. And so you look at what's playing God. Well, it's the head, yes? You wake up in the morning, it tells you how the day's going to be, doesn't it? Or it tells you how you are going to be, or how you were, all this. And it pontificates and forecasts all day. It's playing God. And I'm saying we're identified as that. So then when it reads, hey, you got to quit playing God, it's that which is playing God reads it. And so that which is playing God goes, all right, I'm going to try to quit playing God, which is what? Playing God ad infinitum. You can't break the link, yeah? That which is playing God, if it tries to quit playing God, that's playing God. That's the whole thing. Self can't get out of self. So how are you going to get relief? Realizing you're not in self. You've tried so much to get out of the fucker, and there's probably hundreds of years of spirituality, and in one sense you would say that a lot of us have been trying to get out of what we call us, yeah? And by trying to get out, it's obviously hasn't worked because you're here, so let's entertain the possibility we're never been in, yeah? Because how long would it take to escape from an imaginary place? And when would that escape be available? Now. Where? Here. Yes? And how much time would it take? No time. And you're always going to sense the timeless quality when the downloads happen. When you're onto something, it's not going to be a drip, 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 drip. It's going to be a whack. Yeah? It's going to be a whack. And then there'll be aftershocks and tremors, but it's not like a long, drawn-out thing. And usually what happens is, in my experience, when it hits me, it just informs me all about what I'm not. That's all it does. It never describes itself at all. It describes what it's not to me. So I can recognize it and see I'm not that, and realize the only place I could be seeing it from is what I am. That's the only wisdom that would recognize it as not me, is what I really am. Yes? So by seeing what I'm not, I get a sense of what I am. And suddenly, you lose interest in all the activities that support that imaginary thing, because it's basically not you. Just like you lose an interest in a conversation in the other room as soon as that girl you want to meet says she likes a guy named Matt, and you're Paul, you're not going to be interested in that conversation anymore, because you're hoping she was going to say, hey, I like Paul. So where do you send like Navy 6 SEAL team in there to retrieve your attention? No, just immediately leaves that based on it's not about me. That's exactly what happens. You see, all of that infers, assumes, implies it's about you is not about you. It's about a you, a manufactured you. But the you, only when you say, it's the difference between hearing and listening, yeah? Because we're awake, you're hearing the thoughts, yes? There's a difference when you're listening to the thoughts. It's very, very different, yeah? And most thoughts you're going to listen to are held as mine or about me, yeah? I'm not interested in Stanley's thoughts. I'm not interested in your thoughts, but incredibly interested in my thoughts, yet they're all the same thoughts. But where the meaning lies, where the bondage is mine, yeah? You can see it. You're right in the laboratory. You're right in the laboratory. Nothing is before you. Nothing. Nothing is before you that's hidden. Nothing is before you that's hidden. Everything is out in the open. You can see the activities that are being used to imply there's one. That's all. When you see it, you won't be looking from it.
So there's no control over any of this.
Well, you lose any want or need to control it. You lose interest in it, and you see it exactly what it is an activity.
It just happens.
It's happening. It doesn't happen, it's happening. Everything is verbing. What happens is the verbing is claimed by the mental state to imply the noun. And then suddenly, the noun gets projected to be before the verb, and then you're thinking you're doing a lot of shit you have nothing to do with. Really, that's what it does. I've seen it, you know. I've seen the plant. I've seen the factory. It's been using my facility to produce its product. Yeah, I've seen it. You can see it. There's verbing. That's all there is. There's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, thinking, all this. There is no thinker, feeler, taster, toucher, smeller. There's smelling. There's smelling first, and then the smelling's claimed to imply the smeller, and then the emphasis suddenly goes to the smeller and what's smelled, whatever, however you'd say it, and then you lose the sense of the smelling. Yeah, you now get an interpretation of life instead of the sense of living life. That's all. It's like a little move from one to the other. I know you're itching to say something, so go ahead.
What you're saying then is life is passive. You're just sitting there watching it happen to no one.
Well, first of all, what we are doesn't sit. It's not sitting there watching.
You're moving around.
No, it's both.
The movie is happening.
No, see, it's both. There's that passivity, but this is an action figure. It's all included. Yes?
But it's a passive action figure, which is being moved.
Well, yeah, if you call a glove passive and it's being moved by the hand, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But the thing is, when you're in glove world, this is a thing with non-duality. It can become not a negation, but a denial. Denial doesn't work. Yes? I've seen people try to deny that they have alcoholism and they're drunk Buddhists, yes? They start thinking, they try to use it. The mind's very tricky. It wants to use these novel ideas for an advantage. I mean, I had my first example, I used it all the time in the talks, where I got introduced to this idea. I was living in Australia, living with this woman, we had a house. And the lady was going out, and she said, "Paul, can you do the dishes tonight?" I said, and she said, "Do the dishes, and I'm going to go out with the girls." She came back, the dishes weren't done, and she asked, "Well, Paul, why didn't you do the dishes?" "There's no Paul to do the dishes," and this and that. And she says, "Fuck you, do the dishes." So that I saw the immaturity of the head getting introduced to this novel idea. It wants to fucking take advantage of it, which it does. Now, hopefully, you won't get stuck there and you'll move on and see the absurdity of it, yes? Because this is what these meetings are about, really. They're about warnings. They're about what happens when you hear the message, yeah? It's not about the message at all. And the first video we did was the lion and the sheep. Very famous story in Hinduism, and Papaji used it, and a lot of people do it. But it's a very, very good example, because it's the whole premise. See, if let's say you hear, we're at a meeting, and we're talking about, we're all the dreaming of the dreaming, yes? But see, the dreamt is hearing this. So now the dreamt starts thinking it's the dreaming. That doesn't go anywhere. You want it to get through the defense of the dreamt and get to the dreaming. So then the dreaming starts entertaining it's not the dreamt. The dreamt trying to entertain it's not the dreamt does not go anywhere. I have not seen it work. When the dreamt starts trying to use this to get out of the dreamt, but as the dreamt, it doesn't fucking work. This message isn't to you. We're throwing it over your head. Yes? And it's not from me either, so don't freaking pin it on me. Yeah? It's thrown over the head because I can't miss everywhere. I can't. All I do is not aim at you, and then I'm guaranteed it's going to catch it. And I've seen enough meetings that I know the length of your arm, and I know I can throw it over that. Yeah? And so that's why, and we just don't throw one ball, we throw a lot of balls, because you keep saying, I got it. So, but if you keep something, they can't catch it, It's like a juggler, and you give them, and then just, we're trying to overwhelm it. We don't want to have a big break and take a long breath and close our eyes, because the fucking selfing will regroup. Unbelievable like that. We'll just claim it, and then there it goes. Yeah. So what needs to be seen is who or what's hearing the message. The message is really unimportant, because if the message, you're a lion, which is obviously super clear, and it's you're a lion, yeah? And it's, let's say, coming from a lion to a lion, how could that get misconstrued? There must be something that's going on. So before, when I was younger in this, I would get closer to the person and see it's only 3 inches. You're a lion. You know what I mean? How could he get fucked by here? But then what happens is there's a programming, yes, this selfing, and the programming is you're a sheep, yes? And the programming is the quickest process in time. There's no process that can get before the process of the mental state organizing everything under the sense of self. Yeah, I've seen it. You are not going to meditate yourself out of the meditator. The meditation, the thing is, does it mean it always claims? No, if you start seeing it, yes, the robbery can be put into a pause. But if you're looking from it, you're at the effect of it already. The deal's already done. Yeah, you see. So this message here, you're a lion. You're a lion. So here it comes at you. Sounds good. You like the idea. You're a lion. You're a lion. And then it hits the ears, and the ears are configured as a sheep. Yeah. So the ear goes, I can become like a lion. That's not the message. Yeah, all right, let's go again. And you like, so you go, I like hearing about the message, I'm a lion. But as a sheep, you see? All right, you're a lion, you're a lion, you're a lion. Hits, I can become like a lion. That's not the message. And you keep doing it, yes? Because the thing is, so let's say the sheep gets it, I can become like a lion. And then it has some other sheep that are unhappy being sheep, like this guy right here. Right? So we're going to join, and one of us finds a book on lion, and it tells you how fucking ass-kicking a lion is. And of course the sheep maybe will like that quality, Doesn't take any shit. No one's going to use them for a sweater or nothing. So we're excited and we're reading about it. And so now the sheep get together and they rent a little room like this and they get some pictures of lions and put them in nice frames. Maybe put candles there. And every Saturday morning they have meetings and they practice roaring. And it's like, you sounded really close to a lion. Ba, ba, ba. It's like they're straightening their hair and shit like this. And everyone's saying, Bill, you're getting close. You're looking more like a lion every day. So you see the absurdity of it because it's already a lion, you see. Now, if it was a sheep, it would be a noble endeavor to want to become like a lion. But it isn't if you're a lion, yeah? So the immediacy of being a lion gets turned into a long, long, drawn-out process as becoming a lion, yeah? So the message is, you're a lion, yeah? And it wasn't, giving the message isn't enough. You gotta see the next fucking 5 different locks, let's say. The first lock is the sense of claiming of being the hearer of the message. That claiming of being the hearer of the message neuters the message, yeah? So now it's dead, it's stillborn, yes? Now you think you know it, but knowing it is the booby prize, because in this topic, you're only relegated to one possibility, and that's being it. You can't apply what you apply to everything else that's not you. You can know it, you can study it, you can experience it, you can have it, you can lose it. But you can't apply that to what you are. What you are, you can only be it. Yes? And I'm saying you're being it now. The only problem is most of our attention is in the thought system, and the thought system is saying, I don't think so. Yeah? And because of that belief, suddenly time sets up, and now we're the sheep trying to become a lion, all the while being a lion. So the message is hopefully to give you because this is like we were just saying, there's no point to talk to you about the Buddha. There's a lot of point to talk to Buddha about you. Yeah? To talk to you about the Buddha goes no fucking where. It really doesn't. But to talk to the Buddha about you goes somewhere. Yeah? And so Huang Po, a famous dude, old Chinese Zen, he was giving us a great warning. And he says, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Now, let's say he was at this meeting, and there's Bill, Jim, Sue, and Mary. He wasn't seeing Bill, Jim, Sue, and Mary. He was seeing the Buddha, yeah? AKA Bill, Jim, Sue, and Mary. He wasn't talking to Bill and Sue. He was talking directly at the Buddha with the hopes it would get through the defense of Bill and Sue, yeah? And he was just saying to the Buddha, hey, Buddha, you can't use yourself to find yourself. Simple, yeah? It doesn't need 800 pages of commentary. Very fucking clear. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Quite disarming. When, right? Here, now, boom. Yeah? You can't use light to seek light. You can't use mind, big mind, to seek mind. You can do it, try it for eons, and nothing's going to happen. Now, that spiritual shoe fit when I put it on, and I never taken it off because my spiritual pants fell down, and I just didn't pick them up. It was just, I saw the complete futility of using myself to find myself. How's one going to get out of it? Well, you can't get out of it as it. You have to see you're not in it. And the realization you're not in it takes no time, doesn't need maintenance. You don't have to be vigilant about being out of an imaginary place. Yeah? You don't have to be vigilant. Something that's non-existing is not going to resurrect. As Ramana said, there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, this idea of the body being animated, yeah, that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. And he says, if this is the case, your spiritual practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? There's the conundrum, yes? You're thinking you're going somewhere, but the going somewhere is defeating the whole purpose, yes? By moving towards, you're moving away, in a sense.
But isn't the sense of movement part of the problem, that you have to move and pass time getting somewhere? That you're not already there?
Well, of course, that's what gets whipped up and reinforced and inferred and implied all day.
And doesn't it reinforce the idea that there's somebody there trying to do it?
Of course it does. All doing is used to imply the doer, for sure.
But it's out of our hands.
It's out of our hands, but it's not out of our vision. It's out of our hands, but it's not out of our vision.
The same.
No, it isn't. The vision is awareness.
One is passive, one is active.
No, out of our hands would be sort of like an understanding. Out of our vision is awareness, yeah? We are the seeing. We are that which is not preceded by anything else.
That's what I mean. We see it all the time.
See, but there's a seeing of it all the time, and the mental state is claiming that and informs us that it's us looking.
But they're the hands, aren't they? The mental state is the hands.
Well, the mental state is sort of the glove, and it directs the hand, yes? So the hand gets led into the glove, and when the hand goes into the glove, it seems to forget it's a hand, and now it lives as if it's a glove. Yes? That's the story. It needs to be animated.
Yeah, it's kind of a complicated analogy, but yeah. And the glove is passive, but it seems active.
Yes, because the hand's moving.
Well, it appears to be moving it, but it's just happening.
Well, in the dreaming, it's moving it.
Yeah.
Yes. When you're looking at it from the dreaming, it appears to be moving. We're looking at it in the dream. It's the fucking glove. In the dream. Yes. Yeah. So the whole point is, if the glove hears the message, yeah, that you got to get out of the glove to find the hand, it's going to be the glove trying to get out of the glove, yeah? If you talk to the hand, hey, maybe you're not the glove, the hand may have like a reflexive action which is pulling itself out. And it may go back in.
Yeah.
And time will proceed, but now we will know it's the glove, yes? The horse will be in front of the cart. It won't be thinking the fucking glove is the horse and the hand's the cart. It'll be the hand's the horse and the glove is the cart, yes? Blue will be blue, red will be red. Things will be clear. Yeah, and then proceed. And for me, the proceeding as the action figure just stabilized over these years as traveling lighter. And after traveling lighter for quite a while, I say to myself, what more do you want as this, really? Yeah. If you are that, that's that. Yeah. You don't have to convince this that it's that. Yeah. Just see you're not this, and you'll lose interest in convincing or cajoling or taking it with you and all this shit, and let it state that, I want to be there to get it. None of those things are possible. It wants to experience its own absence. It's not happening. Yeah? Yeah. And things will go on the way they go on. But there'll be a lightness or an acceptance of that which I could never find acceptance in since I was young. Yes? I always thought I did some fucking wrong things. Actually, the selfing in me started out as a sense of badness, morally bad, and I didn't know what I did, but I sure felt like I'd done something. Yeah, and this was like an urban renewal project. It was always being worked on, and then that just ended, seriously. And what flooded in, and I couldn't even put word to it for a long while later, was acceptance. Because the last time I had felt that in a physical thing was my grandmother hugging me when I was a kid, you know? She had unconditional love. I finally had this field of acceptance that's not produced or achieved, yes? It's expressed, yes? Yeah. That to me is the basis of traveling later. I can fit myself around circumstances instead of trying to fit them around me. I've lost interest in a lot of shit that can be lost interest in, yeah? And the interest is gone somewhere else, maybe right here and now. I think really what presence is just undirected interest and attention, yeah? When the interest and attention is freed from the preoccupation of the mental reinforcement of this insane idea, which has to be remembered, that's why the interest and attention is sent on those chores to yesterday and tomorrow. To have that relieved, to me, is the presence of that onness, that sense of onness, yeah? Yeah. And then you know the problems from the solution. You get relief, and then it informs you why maybe the relief didn't seem to be available, yeah? That's what happens with me. I get relief, then I have very clear seeing of what the problem is. And the problem is just an activity, really, called selfing. The activity is the act of being identified as a doer, a thinker, a feeler, a taster, a toucher, a loser, a haver, you know? A wanna, a desire, an aversion, or whatever, all this. It's the act of being identified as a self. It's a verb, completely. It's not like the act of being identified is the verb and then there's a noun. It's a verb. There's no noun of self. The selfing implies the self. There is no self-selfing. The selfing, the mental activity, implies a noun. There's no noun doing the mental activity. The verb, yes, then now, as Ramana said, there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing that wants to get salvation from the non-existent thing. So here it goes. This consciousness occurs, the mental state arises, claims to be the one who's conscious, which comes after, and then this is presupposed to be before. Now you feel you're conscious as a body. So now the consciousness is claimed, then it's evidence that it would give to you all fucking day has been neutered, because you think you're the seer, and the hearer, and the feeler, and the taster, and the toucher. Yes? And then it moves on to whatever else it gets in contact with. Thinking, every thought is used to imply, every thought that can be caught is used to imply the thinker. Every one of them. Every feeling either suggests or infers the feeler. Yeah? You see, all the seeing you do today goes back to the one seer. All of the seeing that's happening is always referred to one seer.
So does that ease off?
Yes, for sure. The light gets dispersed, yes, because it's not being directed by the mental state. You know, sunshine, if it's dispersed, it's wonderful. Everyone likes to get sunshine, but if it was magnified, it would incinerate you. That's what we're going through quite a lot, mini incinerations, because the mental state is magnifying. All this shit is about you, and then the body becomes the center of the universe, and the body's not meant to be a center of the universe. It's just too much for it, yeah? It cannot take all of that concentrated light, yeah? So that magnifying glass is the mental state taking all of this happening and implying it to one person, one thing. It's mind-boggling. Yeah? When that magnifying glass loses its magnification, which is the interest and attention that's in it because it's implying to be you, When you lose interest in it, it can't magnify to the 10th degree, yes? It weakens it, and then light's dispersed, not focused. It's dispersed, and you sense that. That's it, yeah? Like in Dzogchen, in Tibetan Buddhism, it calls relaxed awareness. So the awareness is relaxed. You're not using awareness to focus, to hope to find awareness. Yes? It's relaxed. It's panoramic instead of focused on a thing. And you see more when you're not looking at anything. You see a whole lot fucking more. Yes? And then in these expressions, you know the tree by its fruits. You can't know the tree, but you see things happening, and they intimate, hey, yes, that sense of being, I must be that, yes. There's a sense of intimation, yeah. As Jesus says, you cannot know the tree but by its fruits. A good tree cannot bring forth bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bring forth good fruit. You'll know the tree by its fruits. Well, you entertain these ideas, let's see what happens, yeah? And if after a few months you see, hey, I seem to be traveling lighter, then but at that point, the ideas are entertaining you. You're not entertaining them. You never were, really. The ideas are entertaining you. Because this is an expression. This isn't a cause. This is an expression. Yeah?
You have to chase your tail for a long time before you realise this.
Well, maybe tonight, eh? Chasing the tail, even, again, chasing the tail, don't chase the tail. There's no you doing it. So that's the relief. Again, a lot of times we say, well, I have to stop something. Just ask, who is that has to stop anything? Just let the mental state wants to lock the aperture. Just let the camera float back. More will be revealed, yeah? Yeah? Like, this is realizations when there's Paul. Yeah? Oh, I'm very clear. I'm clearer than most people. I know a lot more than anyone else in this room, whatever. But then this is really something when it goes like this. Yeah? And then you see Paul. Yeah, you see Paul from what's behind the camera. And then suddenly it dawns, this is before the camera. It's never going to be behind the camera. Yes? Whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. As Huang Po says, whatever can be perceived, this isn't what's perceiving. Yes? This is an appearance before the camera, you know? And here, what we are is behind the camera. This assumes and presupposes this is behind the camera, and for it to get away with that, it has to seemingly have complete forgetfulness of what's behind the camera. To the point it will start looking for it on this side of the camera. It will use that which is behind the camera to look for it in front of the camera. Yes?
So you cease to live in the here and now. You cease to live in the here and now. You're not existing at all.
Well, you can never cease to live. You are defined here, but you'll think you're doing something else. Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like from where I'm at the moment. It's getting away from life in transit. It's like I've spent years feeling not being here.
Yeah. Seemingly. You've always been here.
Yeah.
Look at the surveillance tapes. You were here.
Yeah.
The head, see, this is the insanity of the head. It sold a lot of books, too. A lot of books. The idea that you have to get into the moment. Because you're definitely out of the moment. Yeah? That's an insane impossibility. We've never been out of any moment we've been in, ever. Yeah? But see, the mental state makes these insane assumptions. Oh, you're out of the moment. You think that all it's attempting to do is get relevance for its own power. Yeah? It wants to believe it can obscure what you are from what you are. Really. And so it sends these wild little fucking, oh yeah, you're out of the moment. And so you want to buy a book of how to get into the moment. And then you never even finish it usually, right? And then you buy the next one, how to really get into the moment. And it goes on and on and on and on and on, all predicated on an insane idea you could be out of the moment. And then conversely, we're trying to get out of what we can't be in, which we're trying to get out of self, and that's why it never fucking works. I mean, I shot cocaine, and I You know, if you could transcend, I would have transcended. You can't transcend an imaginary place. You can't get out of what you're not in. And I mean, I tried. I could question my spiritual resume and find a lot of, I didn't go to 5 continents, I wasn't with the 16 Kamapa, I could find things. But when it comes to drug addiction, I was fucking perfect. I would compare my devotion to cocaine with all the great devotees of spirituality. The little monkey god, Hedderman, I was right up there. I would. And I know by its failure that every fucking other thing fails. Yes? You can't get out of an imaginary place. Yes? This is dreaming. Yeah. As the Course in Miracles would say. It doesn't say you're in a dream. It says you're the dreaming, which is a much different role. Yeah? So you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. We seem to be forgetting that, and my feeling is by being identified as the dreamt, yes? And in this condition, we're giving everything we're dreaming the power to affect us as the dreamt, yes? So here, thought, you own the thought owns you, yes? Feelings, they come and go. You start owning them, my feeling can ruin your Hawaiian vacation, yes? So now, by forgetting that you're the dreaming and taking yourself to be the dreamt, what you're dreaming has the ability to bite you in the ass. Yeah? That's a diagnosis of what's happening. Read it. If you see it, it's a perfect diagnosis of everyone's day. We are the dreaming of the dreaming. We're in a state of forgetting it by being identified as the dreamt. And in that condition, we're giving everything we're dreaming all the meaning it has, and that meaning is now it can affect us as the dreamt, and so it does. Yeah?
But when you observe Paul, you know, from back here, do you never find that there is the temptation to relapse into addiction and things that
No.
tempt you?
Whatever
Temptation is
whatever
one way.
wants to relapse into addiction isn't me.
Because of the memory of the situation as it used to be?
No,
Or
you know what
just
happened
no
with me?
temptation?
For 31 years now, I've never had a strong feeling or a thought about drugs or anything, which is
It
mind-boggling.
just evaporated.
It evaporated, and it's like the problem does not exist for me. And if you want it to stabilize, see the problem does not exist as us. Yeah? You can have an experience that the problem doesn't exist for you, but to have it stabilize, you have to see the problem doesn't exist as you. Yeah? You have to see the difference. If I'm saying it's the act of being identified, then that which you're identifying must be seen as a foreign object or something, so you can entertain you're not that, and then the freedom becomes available. If before that, if you are taking yourself to be that, you're trying to be free as this. Yes? You're trying to be at peace as this. The peace is from it. Yeah? The whole root is the act of being identified as self. Yeah? Most of us in this action figure and in this time, we start there. That's the dilemma. Because even if you can't notice it, it's a little bit off. But if you take 3,000, 100,000 steps, it's going to be a huge arc. And then the system will try to correct it, which will add more fucking miles. Yes? You trying to get out is the in. You know you're in by all the exit fucking signs. It's a bizarro world. Seriously. It's a bizarro world. I know people, see, you know, if something happens and it's very strong in this place, time, like an interruption, yeah? If something interrupts the linear story of Paul sufficiently, I'm telling you, a quality is going to be downloaded, which is it's always been this way. Yes? It negates any time it wasn't and that you work through to arrive at it. The goal that you want to arrive at fucking negates the whole arrival to it. Yeah? If you arrive there at a moment and it hits you, it tells you it's always been this way. And something that's always happening cannot be happening. Yeah? there isn't, like Ramana says, there's not a realization, it's always realized. Always realized. There's a great story, I was going to bring in the book, and of course I forgot. But there, Ramana says it about a lady who has a beautiful necklace, yes? Very nice necklace, and then she loses the necklace, and she's bummed out, yeah? Beautiful necklace, and she asks her friends to help her find the necklace. So they start looking, they can't find it, and then they hear about someone who's found a necklace, you know? And he promises if you listen and do what he says, you'll be able to find the necklace too. So they go to the talks, and he has retreats, you know, and they're trying to learn how to find a necklace, and no one's really successful, but they believe he's been successful, right? And he says, you're not ready to find the necklace yet, whatever. You got to purify yourself more, whatever it is. And then suddenly a guy comes over and says, hey, feel your neck. And the lady feels her neck, and she feels the necklace. And so now when she thought she lost it, she was bummed out, and now she's found it, she's really joyous, but it was never gone. It's always been there. Yeah? So, but she felt when she believed it was lost, she was super bummed out. And then she also was in joy when she thought she found it. What's that but dreaming? What's that but dreaming? We're dreaming we lost something that can't be lost with the hopes that we can have the experience of finding it. Yes? But then if you find it, you're guaranteed to believe in the possibility of losing it again. And I bet you the time you're in the losing of it will be a lot longer than the time you're in the finding of it. It's a bad deal. You may think you're there when you find it, but you're really going to be there when you lose it. Oh, I've met people who thought they were awake and they lost it. Oh, it's painful. Because they think they did something to lose it. You cannot fucking do anything. We're inherently awake. Here you have a possibility. You can seem to be asleep to that, or you can seem to be asleep to awake to that, but it doesn't change the fact we're awake. Just look at conscious contact. There's no volition. If your eyes are open, you're going to see what's happening. And have you been sweating because you've been seeing all day? Are you effing, I looked at Ramana pictures all day, trying to, practice my seeing. No, the seeing, you wake up in the morning, does it like, okay, here comes the seeing, it's coming, 10 more minutes, no, it's you're like this, and then it demonstrates no thought of effort, does it? Does it demonstrate? Now, your hearing may go bad, but that's based on the ear, not on what's hearing, yeah? Your eyesight may go bad, but not the vision, yeah? The eye's not seeing, you know that. It facilitates seeing. If I died and nothing happened up here, and this eye would be facilitating no seeing, but if you put it in a live body, it would facilitate seeing. It's not the eye, yeah? It's consciousness. Consciousness, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. And it shows no volition because it's being what it is, which is being conscious through these 5 gates. There could be 80 gates. Some insects have 7 senses, 7 gates of sense. We have 5, and then they call the 6th senses the seeing, the hearing of thoughts, in Buddhism, the mind, seeing mental objects. So this thing, the 5 gates don't define the amount of consciousness, and it's not like a cable subscription. You're not, your consciousness is not going to be shut off because you didn't pay the bill. Suddenly you're walking and what? It shuts down. All right, we're going to shut down the ear. If you pay by tomorrow, if not the eye, the vision, shutting it down. You went through 5 gigabytes of fucking consciousness. That doesn't fit your plan. Stop being awake. So if you look at consciousness, it doesn't demonstrate any thought or effort, right? Just take a look at it in your day. Then how would you believe you could arrive at that which shows no thought or effort through thought and effort? It just makes no fucking sense. How could you think you're going to effort yourself into that which is effortless? I would think it would produce the opposite, yes? This is what they've said. This is what the masters say. Read some of them. they'll always come to this idea and they'll frame it as the problem or the greatest mystery because it has an importance. The importance isn't hearing the message, it's how it's heard and what happens with the message when it's heard and who the hell is seen to be hearing it. Because there's something going on. There's robberies all day. There's some kind of scrambling because you think a lion would be able to get the message it's a lion pretty easily. There must be something that's obscuring the message to get through, yes? And it's the lion being identified as a sheep. It's a lion being identified as a sheep. So the old story with the lion and the sheep, there's a young lion and its mother, and the mother gets killed, the young lion's orphaned. It really doesn't know what's going on, and it's roaming around, and it sees a herd of sheep, and it starts moving toward the sheep. Now the sheep know it's a lion, they get a little anxious, but then they realize the lion doesn't even know it's a lion, and they ingratiate into the herd, and now the lion's like chewing cud, you know, it's not that happy, but it's chewing cud. Listen to everyone complain about who's going to be the next sweater and everything, and it's not feeling right, something's wrong, but it can't put its finger on it, but it doesn't know any better, and he likes this other sheep, and he meets her, and they have babies. The babies look a little strange, but they rationalize it away, and he becomes like a big sheep elder, and he's got a lot of, you know, pride and respect in the herd. But he's still feeling way off. And then one day, this old lion comes into the meadow, and he sees this herd of sheep, and he starts chasing it, and he sees this young lion in the corner of his eye, and he thinks it's joining the hunt, but it realizes the young lion's running with the sheep. So it veers off and grabs the lion, and the young lion gets rolled over and says, "Oh, Mr. Lion, please don't eat me, I'm a humble sheep." And it sort of perplexes the old lion. The old lion just grabs it by the neck, brings it to the water hole, puts their faces over, and the young lion sees the reflection and gets what? It's a lion, yes? Now, did it take a long time to arrive at that? Did it have to purge itself of sheepness? Because it had been a sheep all these years? It never was a sheep. Never will be a sheep. Yeah? It's always been a lion. All it needed was a simple invitation. At that point, it was just a reflective glance. The lion saw its nature, and then the older lion said roar, and it roared. It didn't have to take roaring lessons and shit like that, though it would be as a sheep, yeah? But as a lion, could show the qualities of lionness immediately. Didn't have to work on it and shit like this. Why would they tell us these stories? They're trying to obviously imply that there's a lion in sheep's clothing, and the sheep's clothing is interpreting life for it, yeah? And so the lion has learned or taken for granted that the sheep way of seeing is its way of seeing. So therefore, it can never entertain being free from it because it's identified as it. So it's basically trying to be free as it, yeah? All the while being a lion, it's trying to be free as the sheep, yeah? And maybe it's to the point where it's studying about lions, all the while being a lion. And so what would have to happen for that to be corrected? Not to keep learning that it's a lion, but seeing that it's not a sheep. So turn the learning and the wanting to know and the understanding not to what you are, but to what you're not, yeah? And maybe when you're hearing a description of what you're not, you'll get a hit on it. And when you get a hit on it, what's before that hit? What's there seeing the hit occur? Yeah? That's what we are.
How do you see what you're not?
How do you see that well, there's no thing that you're not. You see the activity that implies it all. That's what you see. You see, instead of seeing after the product's made, you see the production of the product. It's this. You see the selfing as a verb instead of looking at it from the noun that the selfing was used to imply. Yes? Instead of looking at it as self, trying to figure out how to get out of self, you see the selfing from what you are. You see the manufacturing of consent, this idea of being a self. You see it.
But you assume that you see it, and it's the you that's the
No,
problem.
you meaning awareness, you know. It's what we are is seeing it. It's not the you. It's what we are. The you doesn't see. The you looks. It doesn't see a fucking thing.
But it's arbitrary. The lion had to be dragged to the water and shown itself. It didn't do it. It couldn't do it itself. It was just arbitrary. It happened to happen. So it's not an activity that you can actually perform or work your way to. It's just
Well, that's
it
what
happens or it doesn't.
yeah,
happen.
that's what we're saying here. But it doesn't have to happen.
No.
The fact that he didn't see his reflection and lived and thought it was a sheep didn't make him a sheep. He's always the lion. And when this little idea of dreaming ends or at night, he ain't the sheep.
But it didn't make any difference to him whether it was a sheep or a lion because he didn't know. It was purely chance that this big lion turned up and showed him.
He may not have known, but it made a difference because a lion trying to live as a sheep isn't going to be
He
sort
would have
of...
died a happy
When he's
life,
looking
a
at his
happy
friend, the
life.
sheep, he's probably having homicidal tendencies. I'd like to have that fucking leg of that sheep, you know? So it's sort of like thinking it's a sociopath when it's just a fucking lion. But if he looked at it, I'm a sheep, I'm having sociopathic fucking tendencies. And then probably go to therapy to try to get rid of the lion qualities that keep bubbling up to the surface. Because it so totally believes it's a sheep. Yes, it makes a fucking difference. It does.
But he might have been a neurotic lion ever.
Well, I'd like to. Well, we'll come to find out. Yeah, yeah. But let's get clear about: is it a sheep? Please, why not? Yeah. Could you imagine if you're living from a false point?
But you wouldn't know it.
Well, you're gonna know
Because
it
you only
tonight.
find out in retrospect. You only find out afterwards, oh, it all happened.
You're getting ready for a Zen bitch slap. A big one.
I
Luckily, you
was
have some
I
distance
wondered
between
what
you.
a Zen bitch slap
It's
felt
coming.
like.
It's coming quickly. Where's my sword? Where's my fucking sword at? And then. You're a fight. I could tell when I saw you. You were gonna be trouble. Don't let him in next Wednesday.
That's what the last teacher said. And he threw me out.
Did he? No, I'll never throw you out. I just won't let you in.
Well, I won't let you in either then.
You're always welcome, bro. All right, so yeah, but exactly what you're trying to say is this message. That's what we're saying. We're just saying, if you see what you're not, it's going to lead, in no time at all, to a finding about what you are. Because you can't apply knowing to what you are. All you're going to get are concepts, yeah? You can't apply to understand what you are. That needs to be applied to what you're not, yeah? And so that you can see, maybe I'm not that, and then the spell of identification is broken. It's never even been bonded, but it's broken. And then a possibility arises that's not claimed by the sheep. And it lands on the lion. And the lion recognizes it as such, yes? And that gives it a huge, suddenly, because it's a position, it's an emphasis. The emphasis has been on the sheep's point of view for so long, and then when you get a whack and it's on from the lion's point of view, it's quite informative about the sheep. Quite informative. Yes? And you'll know it. It's not a knowing head. It's like an unspoken yes. The lion inherently knows it's a fucking lion. Not knows, but feels it's a lion. No matter how many years it's playing the role of a sheep, it can be dismissed in no time at all. Yeah?
Well, I doubt that. 30 years of being a sheep, and you just see, you look and you think, oh, I'm really a lion, and immediately all those reflexes have dispersed and got away. And
No. See that, when
No.
you said, no, wait a minute. When you said, no, now I think and this and that was the sheep.
Yeah.
What you just described as the lion was a sheep.
Yeah, but he keeps going back and thinking, well, am I sure I'm a lion?
No, that's the sheep.
Yeah.
We don't care about the sheep. The lion's going to roar, and it's going to echo, and you'll know. You will know. It'll even vibrate here in this place like an unspoken yes. Yes. And suddenly, a possibility that didn't seem possible as the sheep will be available as a lion. And it always has been available at all times because you've never been a sheep. Ever. I don't care, 30 years, 5 years. 30 years of an imaginary thing or 1 minute of imaginary thing takes the same time to erase. No time at all. The 30 years doesn't make it, it's a longer path to get out of it. Time has nothing fucking to do with it. You can see what you thought you were for 50 years and it can disappear in a nanosecond.
Yeah, but it
Time,
can come
this
back
isn't
again
about,
in a nanosecond.
no. It will come back, but it
Yes.
won't be representing you. That's the beauty of it. You better believe the selfing's gonna come back, but it's
Yeah.
not gonna represent you. That's the point. Because you don't come back, nor do you go. What you are is the fucking screen.
But you have to keep going as if you were, because you've got relationships going back 30 years to a
Oh,
whole
don't
bunch
worry
of
about
people.
that. Don't worry about that. That stuff works itself out. Yes. This is about.
You can't travel light if you're the CEO of some huge company, and
Thank God
suddenly
I'm not.
you get it,
But-
and you've got so much stuff to drop.
Oh yeah, but this is all hypothetical.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So let's just see. The lion can wear sheep's clothing. Yeah. Yes. As long as it doesn't take its to be the
serious.
skin. If it doesn't
But
take
it
it to
can
be
get
its skin, it
confused.
can wear it all day. Yes.
It gets a bit confused sometimes.
The lion doesn't get confused. The sheep keeps talking about itself.
Which sheep are we talking about? The real sheep or the?
Well,
the one-
here I'm representing the lion, and you're a very good description of the sheep.
Touche.
Yes, thank you. It's the New York upbringing. Yes, you see?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I just ask?
If you, what?
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to ask
Oh,
something.
yeah, go ahead.
Just talking about in terms of recovery, in terms of being, in recovery. I mean, what you said to me is, it's just like sort of, for me, you said, yeah, it's there it is right now, bang, it's all gone. I mean, because I'm not identified with it anymore, so it has no power, because it was never me in the first place.
Yeah.
So I really found that helpful. That roots me where I am.
Yeah.
It's like I feel more connected to it. And that means everything is new. Everything's actually new, completely new.
Yeah.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
It's all from,
Yeah.
there it is.
Well, that's the joy of living, yeah. See, when you were young, in my observation, when I was young, I wasn't in an abusive situation or violent. And life was happening, You weren't, will you be playing next week? Because time hadn't set up yet, yeah? I wasn't asking my mother to sort of critique my playing with Wayne Griffith, we were just playing. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to playing school, just playing. And then something developed, yeah, and then introspection started to occur. And then life started getting supplanted with an interpretation of life's happening to me,
But Paul,
a fixed view called self-centeredness, yeah.
the bit that twists me up is when you said about travelling lighter, because it sounds like the separate self is going to get a good deal out of this, because it's going to get to travel lighter.
Well, no, that's not the deal, it's the observation, though. You know what I mean? I didn't hear a deal, you're going to travel lighter. I'm just observing that's what happened.
But
Yeah.
which being's travelling lighter?
The action figure
Yeah.
travels lighter.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. The only place where this can show value is here.
Okay.
Yeah, as an expression. And really, in a sense, like I said, what more do you want? In my dream, I want to have, ultimate fucking everything. But really, on a pragmatic level, if you could just travel lighter through all the days that life has in store for you as an action figure, you would be saying, hey, what more do I want? Because I've had it for certain years, and it's, yes. Because my belief is everything is going to get better. It doesn't work that way. What happened is it allowed me to travel through whatever life had in store for me, cancer or whatever things were going to happen. Yeah, it allowed an ability to find expression where it was covered by the obsession itself. When that was seen through, certain things could start bleeding through the canvas and expressing it that I hadn't seen before, and they didn't demonstrate any thought or effort. Yeah, and it was obvious I wasn't the cause, so there was a basis of humility. Yeah, I couldn't write myself into the story because it had nothing to do with me. It was obvious, and I had this quite a lot when I was in AA in the beginning, because I used to do these talks in AA, leading these workshops, and I had 16 years of Monday nights, or a lot of Monday nights. Yeah. So I had a lot of different situations on those Monday nights as an action figure. One, I was waiting to hear if I had AIDS, and I was a pretty good candidate to have AIDS. And back in America then, in the 80s, you'd have to wait 3 weeks for the results. So you could have been concerned and worried. That wasn't seeming happening. You know, girlfriends broke up with me right before the talk, sinus infections, not having any money. But I knew as soon as I sat down and something moved through me, like a water through a hose, all those pressing things were disappeared for that hour. And after having a number of these hours, I said, how could something real disappear so quickly? And of course, they were as real as I was, because I had to be there for those pressing needs to be pressing needs. When something took me away, there was no pressing need. Yeah? I was constantly getting this, but it was obvious I had nothing to do with it, and my condition had nothing to do with that condition. I was as sick as hell, it came through. I was feeling great, it came through. I was bummed out, it came through. It had nothing to do with me having to be prepared for anything. I was being used, yes? As what? As an expression, as a vehicle for something for mind to speak to mind, yeah? And it's followed me ever since. And then we made a mistake in a weird way. We made a website, because we were speaking in recovery, and then people from outside recovery got in touch with us. I started seeing people, and then I saw spiritual seeking as an addiction, yeah? Which is really, I mean, you have less fun than us. I mean, fuck, at least I get a huge rush. You fucking pay $2,000 to go to a retreat, yeah? And no one's going to come up and say, hey, you've had enough satsang. Say, let's go, get out. And if you put in a request for a retreat, they're not going to probably say request denied. And maybe they should. If someone's been on 30 retreats, maybe they should say, if it hasn't happened yet, you know, fucking let's cancel. You know, they should have a committee that would go over these things. But no, if you keep wanting to go, people will let you go. Yeah, it's an illness just like anything else. Because, first of all,
But you go through it to get immune from it.
that may be the case, but then you can learn it from others.
Oh,
That's what's
difficult.
cool.
You can't get an illness by...
No, you can learn when someone else is ill that you don't want to have
But
it.
you don't get immunity from that.
How do you know?
Because I'm a doctor.
You're a doctor. I have an immunity. I had 31 years of an immunity. 31 years with no thought and effort. And back when I was young, I didn't even learn from my own mistakes. I can watch people now and see what's happening. Yeah?
But you went through a real illness. I mean, major. So you learned from that.
I don't know. You know, I don't know about that. You know what happened, man? I just got struck sober, first of all. And then I was provided with a way of life to extend that. Or it could have been forgotten in a couple of days, probably. And then the same thing with the non-duality. All I did was hear the message, and it was like an unspoken yes. And it's been reverberating ever since. And then all the things that came after it were all informing me about what I'm not. They never described what I am, because I am that, yes? And so I felt when I went to satsangs, this wasn't being emphasized. They're always talking about we're this and we're that, but they weren't emphasizing, well, something else other than you is claiming to be the hero of it. And it's going to neuter every fucking satsang you go to. And what you think is a living message is going to be stillborn. This was going to happen. What? I had no idea of that. Yes? And then more and more got revealed, and I felt that's what compelled me to start giving satsang, because a guy asked me, and I says, well, you went to satsangs, and you heard it. And I said, no, I didn't hear it. That's why I'm giving the talks, because I think, to me, this is the most important point. If you don't see it, you're going to be looking from it. Yeah, you're going to be you're going to be the product, yeah, claiming to have been the producer. You're going to be thinking you're the self that's selfing. Yeah, I've seen it. So the downloads I have that have come through me put a stop to going anywhere else or getting complicated and mystical. This is the point. I'm telling you, there's something that's going to claim what's happening and use it to imply that it's happening to someone. Now, does it have its effect? It may or may not, but it's up to what's before it, which is us. Yes? If you see it, you won't be looking from it. If you don't see it, you'll be looking for it. Yeah? That's been my experience. I haven't moved for, I don't know how many years we've been doing these talks. If some people have seen me 8 years ago, they call me up. Anything new? No, there's nothing new. It's not like, oh, what's new in non-duality 2019? Absolutely fucking nothing. Yes? Not to means exactly that. It's not a denial. It's not like not to. It's a negation. It's factual, not to. Yeah? It's become obvious that there is no subject-object. Yes? It's obvious. Now, do you turn around and try to know what you are? No fucking way. You stop there, and then you find out what you are. Yeah.
Can I just ask, Paul, I've actually never watched a single Zen bitch slap video. I know nothing about it.
Well, don't start.
No. And I was coming up here with my first sponsor, Ricky, tonight from AA, and I said, well, I've watched Paul do the 12 steps, and it's really blown my fucking head off, it's amazing. And I said, so what's different about Zen bitch slap? And he said, well, it's the same thing. And so it's like, yeah, I can't completely get what you're saying.
Yes, because if there was more people in recovery, I would frame it in recovery.
Yeah,
yeah?
Sure, yeah, sorry.
But see, recovery ends where non-duality begins, in a sense, yeah? So recovery gets to the point of seeing that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Selfishness, self-centeredness is what has defeated us. It goes on and on and on, and it keeps pointing to the same culprit, yes? But the real basis of the culprit is an identification as, which they don't say, yeah? They believe it's the obsession with self, but the obsession with self reinforces the identification of self. The mental state's job is to reinforce the identification. It does it with memory, with perceptual interpretation, with the thought systems. It's constantly reinforcing the idea I was. This is, you were talking about the memory. The memory picture you as a body, yes? When you're remembered as a body. When you're worrying in the future, it's another form of remembering you as a body. Where is the remembering of you as a body? Is it in the past or future? No, it's now. Yes? So it was, I was Paul. I'm definitely going to be Paul, therefore I am Paul. The I am doesn't have to go through these shenanigans because it is. Yes? This has to be I was and I will be, therefore I am. Yes? And that takes fucking time. And there's a huge flavor difference between time and timelessness. You have the flavor. It's in all of us. It can be re-triggered, and then you'll start being able to tell what's going on, because time is the main ingredient in the magic trick.
I just want to quickly say, like, I was in psych wards and rehab, just like everything, and the one statement that completely annihilated, I suppose, the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body was one statement: I am identifying as a self. Zip, put the shoe on. That's it.
Yeah,
that's
great.
what got down here, and that's the whole thing that's recovered it.
Well, yeah, because if that's a correct step, then the steps that come after will verify it, and it's seamless. See, negation is seamless. You see what you're not, and then you find out what you are. You never stop looking for what you are, because you are what's looking. Yeah?
Does this make 12-step work difficult? It's sort of
Even more, no, it made it even easier, because then when you introduce people to the fourth step, and there's a lot of ways you can look at the fourth step, but the way I look at it is you seeing how self has defeated us. So we're writing some of self's common manifestations. See, this is the trick. We'll go on for a second. There's a statement: being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. If you're convinced of that, we'll look at its common manifestations. This is what we inventory. We look at resentments in our life, fears, and then the harms done to others in the pursuit of what we want, and we look at the sexual arena. So people in recovery do an inventory to see the manifestations of self in their life. So what? So they can recognize self. Because you can't recognize self, there isn't one. You recognize what is meant to be self by the manifestations of it. It's the manifestations that defeat you. And how do they defeat you? Selfing, the mental state, sees threats where there aren't, yes? And has these senses of resentment. And what happens is, when the resentment is occurring, you call it your resentment. That's the act of being identified as self. Yes? If Stanley was here manifesting through me, and everything he manifests through me I called mine, I'd be in the act of being identified as Stanley. Am I Stanley? No. But I'm in the act of being identified as Stanley. There's something amiss there. Yes? So the act of being identified is, there's a resentment that's being produced by a certain view called self-centeredness, and what's reinforcing it is, when it's happening, you're calling it your resentment. Yeah? You're now owning it, and then it owns you. Yes? It's everything I try to share over and over and over again, so you see it. You don't need 800 examples. You need one example. It's the same fucking thing. Different degrees and sizes and lengths, but it's the same heist all day. Yeah? It plays the thief. It plays the policeman. Fucking see both of them as not you. Someone's talking here, they're talking about the thief as the policeman. The policeman's the fucking thief too. Both of them go. Yes? You see what you're not.
Shame is a thing that arises. Shame is a thing that arises.
Yes, because we think we were the doer. And this is another thing I'll say in recovery, all right? First step in recovery says you admit that you're powerless, right? So what does powerless mean? Let's say in an image, it's like dancing with a gorilla. You're going to stop when the gorilla wants to stop, right? You're powerless to stop the dance. Something has you, and you're fucking, you're obeying its little suggestions, yes? So there's a statement, you're powerless over alcohol, and then you can say drugs, yeah? You could say thought. You're powerless over thought, yeah? And it's made your life unmanageable. So then there's a lot of behavior happens when you're under the influence of the gorilla, yes? Yet, when there's shame, it's about you as the doer, even though you are overridden by the gorilla, yes? So there should be, if you could see that it was the gorilla, there would be forgiveness for you from the shame and guilt the gorilla is mining and harvesting. And while it harvests and mines it, you claim it as your crop. That's the bondage of self. Yes? The doer, even though I was apt to do almost anything unless you could physically stop me, the mental state is still claiming to be the doer of all that shit you did when you were under the fucking influence of alcohol and drugs. You're accountable for that, but you're not responsible for it. And that it's still harvesting shame after all the fucking years. This is about freedom.
So in terms of the fourth step, if you just mentioned the fourth step there, does that mean, I mean, when you said, you don't say my resentments, they're resentments, and you just dig on, because you don't...
Well, you do an inventory on them, and then you see the pattern of how self defeated you, so that you can recognize it. See, what would happen if you saw a blueprint of a house before you moved in? Maybe you would say, hey, that house looks a little too small. But what happens is, you don't see the blueprint, you move into the house, you got a huge mortgage, then you want to get out. It would have been better before you got in, yes? That's what happens. The aperture opens up and you see more. So now you see, yes? You see something happening before it manifests, yeah? And it has to have you to manifest through. Yes? A thought, what is a thought usually doing? It's trying to compel an action, isn't it? Sometimes it's trying to, in recovery, it tries to lead you to fuck it, basically. So the alcoholism tries to lead you to fuck it because when you get to fuck it, you have to do almost anything. Oh, fuck it, might as well drink and shit like that. And then as soon as you drink, the genie's out of the bottle. Yeah? Now you're in a fucking, you're used for transportation. And you're gonna stop when it stops. Yeah? Or unless the body's fucking exhausted, or in my case, I got arrested. Or physically stopped. That's the only way it happens, yeah?
But there's no control of the thought. What prompts that?
But there's not a control of it, but if you see they're not yours, there's a loss of interest in it. And it's the interest that fuels the power of the thought. The thought doesn't have the power, it's the interest in the thought that gives it the power. We are playing that role because we think they're our thoughts. The power comes from us into the thought. Yes? See, if you're driven crazy by a thought, and I see it as yours, I'm not being driven crazy by it. But the same thought held as mine has the ability to drive me crazy. It's not the thought. Get clear about things, yeah? How are you going to see the exact nature of the wrong if you've got the cart in front of the horse? See it. See what's going on. See there's verbing, and then the mental state implies a noun. You see it. The guy did it in LA at a talk with me. He's heard me a lot, and so he says, all right, let's call the self-thing Pauling, and let's say self-Paul. So he says, all right, so on a good day, how much is Paul Pauling? Like 10%, 15%, he went on, and he said, on a bad day, is Paul Pauling 80%? And he went on and on and on. I said, no, you don't get it. There's Pauling that implies the Paul. But he was the perfect illustration. The thing that was implied by the Pauling now claims to be doing the Pauling. It was a perfect illustration of what I've been sharing for fucking years. And he didn't even know he's the illustration. He had no fucking idea. It would have been like a medical book. They're selfing, exactly. He was thinking the product of the claiming of the verb was doing the verb. That's the whole fucking production of selfing. Then you try to stop doing what you think you're doing, which reinforces you're the doer. Yes? So everything, all your escapes fucking reinforce the prison. It just, you can see it once, it happens, it just happens thousands of times. You don't have to see it 1,000 times. See it a few times and you'll get the whole thing. Yeah? And then maybe you'll have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Yeah? And maybe, just maybe, you know, we have a thing in recovery, because the obsession with self is so fucking heavy, you have to do service, yeah? Because service is getting involved in someone else, and it pulls that orbit, it pulls the attention out of that orbit around the planet Paul. And what happens when the attention leaves that fucking orbit? There's a report back which is, I feel available, I feel bigger. And then you start sensing a presence when you're available, yes? And then what happens? You go up the S of self, and then you need to do service to get a little breather. But it's the stubbornness of the identification, back and back and back. What happens when you sense the presence if you're that presence? Yeah? And therefore, that if you're present, you're available, yes? So now you're present, this is your state, not a fucking production. You didn't produce it by doing something, it's a state. I'm present, therefore I'm available, therefore I'm of service. Now that's a fucking quantum leap about service, yeah? You do service, but now you have an attitude of being of service. Much, much different, hugely different, yes? It's just, if you look at it from here, you're always going to have to do service to get out of self. But if you realize you're not in self, you'll see you're always available at all times, which makes you of service, yeah? Formal service or not, you're available and present. And I'm telling you, you never get gypped. You don't miss a fucking thing. Yeah. All those absurd beliefs that you could be out of here, you're missing. No, it's all made up. You've never been anywhere other than where you are. Yes? You're not missing anything. You never get gypped. You're there when you're sleeping. You're here now. You're here. Nothing breaks the definition of here and now. Nothing. Yeah? It's these absurd things the head believes, and it passes it to us, and we fucking give it a yay, you know, an A. Yeah? And then we're beholden to it. Really? Yeah. And then we have to fucking work on how to get into the moment. And then you're in anxiety. Am I in the moment? Then you fucking have to rely on some yoga teacher. Do you think I'm in the moment? Oh yeah, it's $50. You'll be more in the moment. All right. And on and on and on and on. It just goes on and on and on and on. You're your own fucking authority sooner or later. You know when you got something. You don't have to rely on someone else to tell you. You can see blue and blue. This is a freedom. Yeah. Then if you want, you know, see, you know, blood pressure, which I'm having now probably. Blood pressure, you can meditate for 10 minutes or so, probably chill it out. If you're doing 13 hours of meditation, you think you're going somewhere. You do. You're thinking you're going to go somewhere. You're not. Yeah? This isn't going anywhere. This is not a chariot of the gods. It's like a Toyota. It's utilitarian. It's expressive. It does its thing. It's not. You're not going to polish it into a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? It's just fucking have the maintenance that allows it to have a quality of life, and then just be sort of free range. Yeah. The interest and attention will be always available, and just go to like that flower that's just opening in the crevice or somewhere. Or being able to read someone, now that guy looks like he's upset or whatever. Yes, and you'll be in your pulse of life, not that up here, but here. Yeah, and you'll know it.
But Paul,
Yes.
you're implying you're addressing an identity that can decide to see this. And I don't see this identity.
It's not a decide to see
This
it.
entity.
No. It's not a decision. It's a possibility.
Well, that's a kind of message of hope.
It can be construed as that.
Well, that's hope is just awful.
Not if someone needs it.
No, because hope is just living in the future of might be, taking you away from what is.
Not necessarily.
Whoa.
If you're truly hopeless,
Oh,
hope
come
is a
on.
pretty good commodity.
No.
Yes.
To be hopeless is much better because then you don't have anything to lose.
Yes,
If
yes.
you're hopeful,
But
you
for
have
people who have
everything to
lost,
lose
hold on.
the rest of
But
your
for
life.
people who have lost everything, hope can be helpful in the beginning.
No, hope is the worst
Yes,
thing.
I'm talking about
They
the
should
action
have
figure.
despair, and then
Oh,
they can
no.
start.
I'm telling you, please do not take away what the action figure needs by non-duality.
Oh, no.
Don't do that.
Hope is
Fucking
Hope.
render unto Caesars what Caesar's. When you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. Please.
I can't see any purpose in hope.
Well, you would if you were hopeless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I am hopeless.
You would be when I went to my first meeting. Yeah, I had hope, and it allowed me to see how hopeless I was. So don't anything
Well-
that wait a second. Now you're getting me.
All right.
Anything here. What is given the meaning? What comes before? What comes before gives the meaning of hope.
But it's
Hope
the
is valuable, then it may not be. There is no fucking thing that hope is hopeless. There's nothing that is fucking what it is. It's what it's meant to be by the mind. So do not, when a person in alcoholism and addiction is in the beginning of dreaming itself out of a dream, one of the first ingredients it feeds on is hope. Why would you want to fucking starve them for some philosophical fucking
It's
purity?
not a philosophical thing. Hope is just an illusion.
To you.
that-
To you, yeah.
Hope is real.
to me.
To you, yes.
Who else is there here? Who else is there?
A lot of people.
No, there's no one. Because you're just
Yeah, see, let's stay on different levels, all right?
okay.
Yeah, see, this is like, if someone's house is on fire, yeah, I'm not going to go there and tell them, hey, there's no house and there's no fire. I'm going to tell them where the water is, yeah? And then when the fire's out, maybe I'll ask them, you're at a lot of fires, so maybe they can see their role in fires, yes? No, hold on, let me just end there. So in the Course, they have a thing called level confusion. So there's a level here that there is no, hope is terrible, all this. And yet, then there are other levels where hope has great value because it's part of dreaming one's self out of the dreaming. Yes?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
see that.
I know you don't see
Don't
it.
get it.
But you have to open, you've got to
I
include
see
the
it
possibility
as an
that it's seen
illusion.
that way.
I see.
You have
Yeah,
to open to the possibility that it can be seen that way. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you, just in this dreaming, yes? When I came into recovery, and I look back on the last 4 or 5 years, I saw no fucking value in any of it, yes? If I could have thrown it all into a big hole, I would have. And then I went into AA, and AA used all that which I called having no value and put it to great fucking value, yes? That which comes before is going to give the meaning of the word hope or hopeless or anything else like that. Yes? That which comes after fucking tries to make an absoluteness of it, you're going to get caught in that. Nothing is absolute here. Nothing is absolute here. At a certain moment, hope is the appropriate fucking possibility. Yes.
No.
Well,
I disagree.
we have to disagree. Yes.
I work with people with terminal cancer. When they have hope, they live in every day in the future thinking they could get better, they could get better, they could make it better. They waste the last year or whatever of their life. When they despair, totally despair, they start living, they start investigating, and they start
Yes,
living
that's
in the moment.
okay. And then
then they become
hold
alive
it,
again.
and then in another theater, the opposite happens.
Maybe
Yeah,
in
it's
recovery it does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See,
But
this is the thing.
I don't
See,
s-
I want to share something with you. And when I came
I
into,
watch people put off their lives.
all right, let me share something with you. When I went to, when I used to go into, when I used to go to non-duality, what I saw were non-dual Pharisees. Yeah,
Right.
they had the letter of the law, but they don't have the spirit of the law. Yeah, the letter of the law is going to become very dried out and fucking arthritic. The spirit of the law has flexibility of it. Yes? Yes. You have to see what's before gives all meaning to what's after. What after doesn't make something an absolute. What's before gives meaning to anything. The only absolute is what's seen. Yes. So hope can be unbelievable or it can be unhelpful. It's not one or the other. It's open to fucking meaning because it's inherently empty. Yes. Everything is inherently empty and is given meaning. Yeah? Yeah. So for somebody, hope is a fucking blessing. To another person, it's causing more distress. There isn't hope. There isn't 80 different variations of hope. Hope is empty, and the mind gives it the meaning it has. Yes? Yeah. I like tonight. It's getting feisty, man. It's like the old days, the old AA meetings. Fucking, let's get on, brother.
That was a good one.
Yeah. You don't have, you're going to get whacked, brother.
I'm waiting for the slap.
Yeah.
Gunfight,
And then you have to feel it, though, eh?
Oh,
Nice, yes. That's the point. See, something gets tickled. It doesn't matter what you think it is. Something gets tickled, and let that, see what happens, yeah? You don't have to stoke it or anything. It's got its own fire. Yes, you've been served the spiritual subpoena. You have. I've seen this event tons of times. I've seen what happens here. I have faith in what you are. I have faith in what you are, and I know what you are can lose faith in what it's not. As soon as it starts seeing it may not be it, it will lose faith in it, yeah? And without the faith of what you are, what you're not is quite empty. Seriously. You have to be firm in faith in what you're not to take it yourself to be it, yes? As the Course in Miracles has a beautiful line. It says, denying what you are and firm in faith in what you're not. And it's really the firm in faith in what you're not, which is the denial of what you are. Yeah? No one's sitting here saying, I'm denying what I am, I'm denying what I am. Yeah? But there's firm in faith in what we're not. And in that, we're denying what we are, seemingly. It's appearing to be true. It isn't true, but it's appearing to be true. Yes? Yeah. So, any questions? Not like that. No more questions from this side. Any questions? The third chair in the first row. No questions for you, like a soup Nazi. Any questions? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, I'm early in recovery, and I'm trying. This is helping me so much, and I'm really trying to share this message in meetings. And there is quite a bit of resistance because people do kind of.
Don't try to share it too much.
Well,
What you are will speak louder than what you say.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Let that carry it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just because I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Freedom is exciting, eh?
It's really, it's just really, you said entertaining. It's entertaining when I watch you, when I do the 12 steps. Not only am I learning, I'm also entertained by what I'm listening to, and I relate to you as another alcoholic. So I can get, it's just a beautiful message, that's what I'm saying. So I'm just want to share some gratitude, really.
And I'll give you $10 later.
Thanks. Same thing. The sponsor said, he did a chair, and I said, yeah, and I just said, you're a really great guy, you helped me so much. He said, yeah, I'll pay you 20 quid.
Yeah. I have a lot of checks out every month. Yes, yeah. No, I mean, it's, again,
Hope.
humility is a you can't produce humility. It's just an observation that you have nothing to do with something. That keeps you right-sized. And yeah, a lot can happen from that basis. Yeah, and then it stays clean. So, I was helped immeasurably. I had an old guy named Cy P, and he, it's the possibilities. See, the mental state believes in time, yeah? And so the possibilities of being okay are put into time, like I will be okay, or I have dreams, I have memories, I was once okay. It neuters the possibilities of the immediacy of an inherent condition, yeah? You and I can outshine circumstances and situations, not through effort, but through nature. Yeah, our nature outshines everything. Yeah, why not let a little of that in during the day? And I'll tell you, a little bit goes a long way to establishing a life is seen as traveling lighter. And really, what more do you want? Yeah, you can't awaken from awakeness. You're awake. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I've had experiences where the awakeness is so freaking awake, like the body disappears and it's just pure awareness, and that can be totally out there sometimes. And that's remember I'm an action figure. You've had those experiences with contraction and fucking that sort of balance out later in recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Enjoy the free samples. I'll have to pay later. Yeah, really. Yeah. Yeah. So, any more questions? Yes.
Thank you for your energy. It seems to me that the attention is the thing that jumps from one thing to another. And I'm not clear whether the thing that drives this attention, where does that come from? Why do I focus on one thing or another?
Well, let's say attention's.
Focus on the
Yeah.
small self or the big self. What is it that drives this phenomena?
I wouldn't. That's a dead end. The why. I would just observe and then see what downloads. Yeah, just observe. Like Buddha supposedly said. He was a laboratory. He was his own laboratory. He just checked out what was going on, and he's not 2 levels below a coconut, so he could see. And then things can become clear. Yeah, and but why is not a. Yeah, but attention, in my sense, the attention is being directed. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
maybe the why is the wrong.
I would say
phrase.
2 broad things is the mental state is directing attention, and then it could, let's say in the Course, it would be called the Holy Spirit, and in AA it would be the higher power. Yeah? So the idea of it, AA is a higher power, and the idea, how I see it, is, as the Course in Miracles says, the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. So what the brain is collating and taking in all this information, it's collating to the body. So that's called self-centeredness, yeah? So everything is seen as, it pertains to you as a body, and the body infers that you're the doer, the thinker, you know, all that, yes? So that's one thing. And so some of us have had years of that data and that collation and that interpretation. And we've seen that any life run on it is going to hardly be a success because our lives have not been a success, yes? And all this shit that they explain as under that effect, we're intimate with. So we know, oh yes, I know exactly what that's like, yeah? So the idea of turning one's will and life over to the care of something greater than self, yeah, greater than self, yeah, is a pretty good idea. And what happens in my observation, and this is the Holy Spirit in Course in Miracles, it takes the same data that's being taken in by the apparatus, but it collates it differently, yeah? It has a different intent, and it sees it in a different way, yeah? In a way, you could say it sees it as it's going to it will lead to dreaming oneself out of the dream, and as you do, the dream will get happier. Where the mental state's collation is to reinforce the idea that you're here and that you're right about something, basically. Even how wrong you are, you're right about it, yes? So it's got its own intent, and we've had enough of that, hopefully. You've seen it. You know, you see seeming years of it. It's not changing its fucking theme, yeah? So if you've gotten a flavor of something else collating your life, and you see that it's producing let's say, more expansive and fucking, well, just carry on, as they say in England, yes? Just let it take, you know, yes? And so I arrived at that as the action figure because my life I realized that I'm not managerial quality, and so I was open to, something else, directing. And I feel I do a lot better when I'm directed than when I'm directing, yeah? When I'm led, and I don't mean by people, but I'm led by intuition and wisdom than I am when my head's leading. And you know, there's no choice, there's just a leaning into it, yeah? Yeah. You just lean into that, and then it becomes more developed. And what happens really, all it needs is 50% and 0.1 to make the emphasis change. Where you see from the other point of view, the mental state, instead of looking at the other point of view, hopefully from the mental state, you see the mental state, yeah? And just the shift of attention and interest is enough to produce a long-lasting effect, traveling lighter, yeah? Yeah.
Can I ask one more thing, Paul? I kind of, I guess the evidence, I do a lot of service, and I am of service, I try to be of service, and I agree with that, you know. Start of that disconnection with self for me, or my concept of my understanding of where I'm at the moment was when my sponsor told me to get out of the conservatory where I was studying the big book and go and do the washing up.
Yeah.
And I was taking action, and then sharing needs. Now, so my beginning to the spiritual, my conception of a higher power came through action, because action actually had more power than I did, because it stopped me thinking about me and put me there.
Yeah.
So it was going on.
Yeah.
And that wasn't. So that's kind of extended for me, like you said. That's still broadening out of just different actions, and that kind of radically ordinary life is what I'm really connected with at the moment. It's just to give an experience is great. It's because it's actually going on, and everything else was just. It's validating what's happening now. And if I look at the experiences I'm having now, they have nothing to do with self. Self has created all this carnage, 20 years of misery and mayhem, and knives in chests and slashed wrists and overdoses and alcoholism, raging torrents of misery, and my family going nuts and everything else. And what I'm doing now is I'm walking through the park at 6 in the morning, having just done the washing up and loaded the dishwasher and hung the laundry out and then going for coffee, and I've got all the shopping done before 8 in the morning. That's got nothing to do with self. So
Yeah.
I can use those experiences now to kind of validate that they're not part of self.
Yeah,
Self would never have done any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all being done drink and drug free. You know, I'm not thinking about drinking drugs. Why would I want to fix something which is already fine? I'm not looking to solve something.
Yeah.
You know, this is what's so.
Well, allow it to keep going the way it's going.
It's really
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it's really great.
I mean, there's a statement in AA that says you have to have it to give it away, but I believe if you're willing to give it away, you'll have it. Yeah. So if you're open, something's going to come through. Yeah. That something is us, really, but you know, whatever. Well, I think we all rock'em sock'em, didn't we? Did you feel a few blows, a few body blows? Yeah? Right in this liver. I hope some of you come back Wednesday. Any questions? You all right, honey? Everything's well? Yes? Oh, good. Nice to see you. Yeah. Everyone well? All cool there? Yeah? You? I met you last year, right?
No, I was not big.
Never before? Oh, you must. Oh. You look like one of my brother or something. Yeah. Are you Irish?
Welsh.
Welsh. That's close enough. Oh! I better get out of here. Anyway, anything else? No? Guys, okay? Yeah. It's not you anyway, so. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You ever hear of self-inquiry? I will be helpful. Fuck him. Yeah. Self-inquiry. Yeah, who am I? Not the neti. Who am I? No? You never heard of it? You have, yeah. So if you're having any spin or something, like let's say the head's worrying about next week, just ask who is it that's worrying about next week. Because the meaning about the worrying about next week is more based on you than the worrying about next week. Yeah? I'm telling you, the meaning comes from the mind. It's you, it's because it's you that's worrying, it seems so fucking important, really. It has nothing to do with and it's the sleight of hand. It always wants you to look at that and not see this. But this is where the meaning of that comes from. Yeah? If you just watch it, it's represented by the word my. So like, I have a girlfriend, let's say I have a girlfriend, everything's great, yeah? And then one night I christen her my girlfriend. Then I think I have the right to see who visits my girlfriend, park in front of her house. Think I should go into, not that I did this, go into no, just hypothetical. But now, suddenly I have a whole new license because it's my girlfriend. See the difference? And we used to do this thing with money and health and relationship, and then I'll change the word without changing any of the letters and just put my money. So I want all of you to have a lot of money, but I don't want you to have any of my money. So the meaning changes completely all day. That sense of my, you can't see it. It's not concrete. It's a sense.
Maya.
The sense of the feeling of being a doer. It's not the statement of doer. It's the feeling of it. Yeah? There's a feeling. It's a sense of self. Yeah? It's derived by the claiming of everything happening, but it produces a sense. Yeah? A feeling. So when something is noticed, it uses that to imply you're the noticer, yes? And it does it quite often, all day, to the point where it could just suggest it and it keeps to trigger it, yes? Triggered. If you start seeing it, it weakens it because it's not about you, it's about a you, it's manufactured, yeah? And you think it's different because you have maybe different nouns in your narrative. Yeah, but it's all the same.
Sometimes I catch it, but a lot of times I don't catch it. it takes like sometimes I think, oh my god, I didn't, you know, I haven't been in recovery, but I've had a lot of drink and drugs and definitely an addictive character. But then when the non-duality stuff came in and that was getting better, but sometimes I get caught again. I'm surprised at things I do because I'm so much in the small self and the suffering again. It takes ages to come. Maybe it takes a bit less than before.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as when I was a youngster. I probably used to do similar kind of things to what you were describing when you were really mashing it up as a kid. Now I don't do that, but I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, it's just gone, because I'm always aware that I'm not that small self. I'm always established in the knowledge that I'm not the action figure. A lot of the times I'm back into it.
Well, then when you just said that, a lot of times you're backed into it. Throw that thing in there. Who is it that's back into it? Because it's not you. Yeah? So all the clarity of what you're describing doesn't come from the you you're describing. It comes from what you are. Yeah? You see? What you are is allowing this description of the you that thinks it's knowing itself. It's the what you are that's the light. Yeah? So just entertain the possibility that you can go back, not you, but what you are. Yeah? Because you see, it claims, see, as you were speaking, it was claiming to be the one who was doing all this. Yeah? So then you can go back and there's space behind there. There definitely is. Yeah, I would say it's us, and then maybe go back there, and then if you like with me, it happened with I went into a meeting. Do we have time for 5 minutes? Yeah, I went into a meeting of satsang, the first one I ever went to, and I was reading this book by Ramesh Balsa called Who Cares, which I liked. Concepts about personal doership. His target was the question of personal doership. Basically, that was what he stressed. And so I walked in there, and a lady was speaking. It didn't matter what she was saying, but the sense of the room was cool. And I shared, and I said, I came in here and I was looking at emotions coming up and physical sensations and mental states. But there was an assumption it was me seeing that. And when I heard the satsang, I realized that was a mental state seeing mental states. Yes? Yes? So the aperture opened, and what I called me was included in the content. It was assuming it was the context, looking at all the fucking pieces of soup. But when I saw it, it was in the content. Yeah? Oh, very far out. So I left, read a little more, did this, and then again, you start thinking you're clear and shit like that, and it's you that's clear, and then the aperture caught that. And it did it about 6 times, and then it was like the 100th monkey syndrome. My head got it. It's always going to arise. The self thing isn't going to stop as long as you're here. It's going to arise after the fact of what you are, but it's going to imply to be the fact of what you are. Yeah? It is. So it's just sort of like your blood pumping. That's what it does. So you'll recognize it. You don't have to keep recognizing it. After you see it enough, there's an establishment in that seeing. Yeah? Even though you think you're in something, you're not that one that's in it. Yes? Because the head will say, I'm in it. I was out of it. I'm in it. But that's a bigger in. It never leaves. In that bigger in, there's in and out. But it's always in it, yeah? It's the one that's in, it's the one that's out. You're in this, but you're in the thing of in and out. I'm closer, I'm farther, I was connected, I was disconnected. All of that is like the mental kid playing in the pool. It never gets out of the pool. It's in and out, Marco Polo, whatever, yeah? None of that's truly you. It's not you, yeah? It's not you. Why you can have such a clear description of it. The clear description does not come from that. You're seeing it. Yeah? There's a seeing of it. And the seeing isn't any effort or thought. It's just our condition. Our nature is of awareness. Yeah? And there is nothing that's aware of us. What's seeing can't be seen. What's hearing cannot be heard. What's hearing cannot be heard. What's feeling cannot be felt. What's driving all these things cannot be driven. Yes? That's what we are. And you arrive there because you've never left, but the weird way you quote unquote arrive there here in time is by seeing what you're not, at least in this case. And that's what I'm sharing from, because I don't listen to anyone else, and I want it to come from like an independent bakery, and here you go. This is how it's been seen. I'm not saying this is it or not. All I can talk from is this, yeah? And so that's why I'm putting it out. Yes.
Sometimes I try to like articulate in a way that makes sense to me. So far you've mentioned a few times what can be perceived and cannot be perceived.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So in that context, selfing can be perceived.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
So insofar as, if you can perceive, if you could be aware of this sensation or whatever you want to describe as a selfing, then done.
That's right. See, what Huang Po does is he takes all of us off the board. He says, whatever can be perceived, you're perceiving now this, that's it, cannot be perceiving. There you go. Makes the game much easier because we're all off the fucking board. Start there. Yeah, exactly. So if it can be seen, it's not that which is seen. Yes? Ultimately is, because it's an appearance of that which is seen, but let's just get it to the nuts and bolts. Whatever can be seen is not what's seen. Yes? Simple. Okay, so that you move on from there. You know what I mean? You're rushing through the grades quickly. You got Buddhism 101. Everything isn't satisfying because it's not fucking lasting. Yes? Experiences come and go. You can amass tons of experiences. They don't make anything really. Yes? You learn this, you boom, 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 and then, all right, then there you have it. So we're all, this is like a free-range university. We should all just, like if I had a Buddhist sect, it would be laying down Buddhism. Just fucking taking naps, just give up this whole drive and just be nice for your ass. It doesn't want to sit on a pillow for 13 hours. Fucking, just fucking content and satisfied. Nice. Yeah, content and satisfied. Can you imagine if you ever stopped, you'd really see how driven this thing was in time. Yeah, not a pause, but a stop. You'd really get a hit. You know the problem by it's from the solution, you do. And the solution says there's no problem, really. It's just an activity. Yeah, all right, well, that's that, eh?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. I have one book for sale. I know. It's a non-linear book. It's the only one I have. All right, great. That's all I took.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you want Wednesday, I'd like to have people here. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friends. And you. Thank you. Yep.